Hey folks, how you all doing? Lloyd here, or Mr. Hats as I'm known in the VC. I thought I'd try this unofficial 2026 vinyl tag today. I've seen about 4 or 5 responses to this, plus David Atkinson's original, and I thought let's see what I can come up with. So we'll give this one a go. There's 20 prompts or questions, and we'll sort of get on with it. So first prompt: best music purchase from 2025. So I'm not going to show my favorite album of 2025 yet, simply because I'm going to be doing a ranking video of the new release albums I bought in 2025, and that will spoil the end of it for you if I did that now. But one that I was really happy to get this year was Leo Sayer's 2019 album Selfie on vinyl. Lynn and I do own it on compact disc, but we managed to find it for a reasonably good price on eBay or Amazon. So we picked that up on vinyl, and it's also on a pink vinyl there. The album's called Selfie because Leo actually wrote, played all the music himself, performed all the vocal parts, and produced it himself. So it was a selfie effort. So that's glad to have that one. There's only about 3 or 4 more we need to collect on vinyl in our Leo Sayer collection. So hopefully we'll get that this year. Prompt number 2. Favourite live experience of 2025. Well, we only saw one concert in 2025. Been cutting back over the years. I vowed, I think it was about 2015, 16, something like that. I'd seen Bruce Springsteen not long before that. Saw McCartney for, I think it was the second time around that time, and I vowed never to go to another concert again. But since then I've seen Leo Sayer 2 times, and Lynn and I've seen Chris Isaak once, and Lynn and I've seen Leo Sayer once. So the only concert we went to 2025 was Leo Sayer, and we'd actually got an invite via his manager to actually meet him after the show, and he spent well over half an hour with us, signing all of his studio release albums, which is 16 from memory. And yeah, it was a great experience, a great live show as well. So that's prompt number 2. Prompt number 3: how do you see your LP vinyl collection in 10 years? Larger, smaller, or the same? Well, that's quite a tricky one to answer, because there's 2 sides to this one. The first side is that we don't get rid of any records, even if we don't like them. They're part of the collection. We keep them, and we will only keep buying more. Whether that decreases, whether the amount we purchase each year decreases, which has this year over previous years, is yet to be seen, but it should increase. The only things I can see that would decrease the record collection somehow is if we had serious illnesses, injuries, like heart issues or something, and we'd have to have major surgery and didn't have the money. We'd have to sell off some of the more valuable records in our collection. Or if all of a sudden we both went deaf and could never hear music again, then we're gonna waste time having all these tens of thousands of records in our collection. So it's a strange one to answer, but that's all I can give you. Prompt number 4: you move to a new home. What do you play at volume 11 on your record player to announce your arrival? Well, to me, I was going to pick Never Mind the Bollocks by the Sex Pistols, but I thought you can't go wrong with some rockin' Elvis Presley. So I thought I'd pick Elvis Presley. All those hits he had there in the 1950s. We've got A Fool Such As I Need Your Love Tonight, Wear My Ring Around Your Neck. One Night, I Got Stung, Big Hunk of Love. You can't go wrong with any of those songs on full volume. So I thought I'd go with Elvis, and a lot of people are more inclined to appreciate some old-fashioned rock and roll than the Sex Pistols, and I don't want to put Neighbours offside straight away. Prompt number 5. Show your favourite male and female artists. Well, I'm not going to show my favourite male and female because I will be doing a video at some point in the year of my 100 favourite artists, and I don't want, when it comes up to, you know, the top 5, that you already know what my favourite male and female artists are, should they be in the top 5 as opposed to bands. So I'm just going to show you 2 that I really love, that I think will be fairly high in my list of favourite artists of all time when it happens. We'll go with ladies first, and most people who know my channel and my previous channel know that I'm a huge fan of Linda Ronstadt. Such a versatile singer. She can rock it out with the best of them. She can do country, she can do pop, she can do ballads, gospel, jazz, blues, you name it, this girl can do it. And so Linda Ronstadt's up there for me. And also for the favourite male artists, I'm going to go for Neil Sedaka as one of my favourites. He's been around since the late 1950s. He had a decade and a half of hits from 58 right through to the mid to late 1970s across the world. How this guy is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet, I don't know. All his peers seem to be, except for him. So Neil Sedaka's my pick there. So top 3 soul / dance records. I was going to pick some soul artists, your Wilson Pickett's, your Otis Reddings, etc., but I thought I would go with dance. 3 dance artists, or dance / disco artists. The first one I'm going to go for is a fairly obvious one, and that's the Bee Gees from that mid to late 70s period. I tried to find the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack but couldn't find it at that stage, but yeah, this will suffice from that era. I will also pick the brilliant Boney M. I only picked this compilation simply because I'm too lazy and couldn't be bothered getting out my vinyl box set of all their studio albums. And third, I'm going to go for Stefan Remmler with his album Lotto. You may not know who Stefan Remmler is until I say which band he was in, but he was in Trio, who had that massive worldwide hit in the early 1980s, Da Da Da, Don't Love You, You Don't Love Me. This album is much along the same line, so it's danceable stuff, dance stuff. Some of it's sung in English, some of it's sung in German. Very good album. Next up, prompt number 7. Name a track you dislike on an album you love. Oh, I could have probably picked a dozen albums here, but I already had this one out because of a rankings video I did recently, and it's Paul McCartney's Tug of War album, and the track is the closing track, Ebony and Ivory. I just cannot stand that song. I am not a fan of Stevie Wonder. I am a huge fan of Motown and all those coloured artists from the 60s and 70s, but for some reason Stevie Wonder irks me. I could probably name all his singles that I like on both hands. I don't like the Inner Visions album. I cannot stand it. Songs in the Key of Life. Everyone seems to love those 2 albums, but I just can't stand them. I do love the other track on this, What's That You're Doing. That's got a real good funky vibe. But Ebony and Ivory is just so... it's simplistic pish as far as I'm concerned. It's yeah, I get the analogy between the Ebony and Ivory keys and Black and White and all that stuff. I get it, but I just think it's a very simple song. It's very bland, very nonchalant. Yeah, it's not a very good song in my opinion. Never liked it from the day it was released. Prompt number 8. Pick one album from the last 6 decades. So everyone seems to have started at the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, zeros and 10s. I'm going to go the other way and include the 2020s as a decade. So I'll start in the 1970s, but we're going to go backwards. So from the 2020s, I'm going to go for this great album, which was released in 2022 or 23. It was during COVID anyway. So this is the album. It is Melina, Talbot, Lofgren and Young. So it's the 3 members of Crazy Horse: Ralph Molina, Billy Talbot and Nils Lofgren and Neil Young. They all had 3 or 4 tracks that they were working on at home in this, own studios around the time of COVID when no one could get anywhere. And before they knew it, they were all sort of speaking to each other. Well, the 3 of them were, except for Neil Young, and they'd come up with 8 or 9 tracks, 9 tracks, I think. And they asked Neil to write a song, and for it, it's a very Americana / folk album. Great album. Well worth a listen if you get a chance to. 2010s, we're going to go for probably my favourite debut album from that period, 2019, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Did We Go by Billie Eilish. Sort of an indie pop type album, sort of alternative at the same time, but very, very catchy, very beaty, and an absolutely fantastic album cover there. The 2000s, we're going to go to Grinderman with their first album, self-titled Grinderman. This was from 2007. Any of you that don't know, Grinderman is a side project for Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. It's a very, very heavy, dirty, grungy album. Something most people wouldn't expect from Nick Cave, but obviously true fans know he's got into this sort of grungy, dirty, grimy rock, especially in his early years with Birthday Party, but a very, very good album nonetheless. Grinderman 2 is actually my favourite of the 2 albums. Next we're going to go to the 1990s. Fabulous album. I think this was 1997 from memory. I can't actually see it. George Michael with Older. Great album. Jesus to a Child is one of the most beautiful songs ever written. If you've never heard it, if you have and don't love it, there's something wrong with you. It's also got the great funky, danceable Fast Love on here. And Spinning the Wheel was another big hit. Just an absolutely fantastic album from George Michael. 1980s now. 1984, we're going to go to the debut album from Frankie Goes to Hollywood. This includes the title track, which was a huge hit, especially in Europe, Relax and Two Tribes and The Power of Love. It also includes a couple of covers on here. Do You Know the Way to San Jose, Born to Run also. But yeah, it's a good mixture of cover songs and original songs. Quality album, well worth a listen if you've never heard it. Then we're going to go to 1977, and we're going to go to 1979, Leonard Cohen, Recent Songs. Guy never made a bad record. Leonard Cohen is Leonard Cohen. You either love him or loathe him. Personally, I love the guy and his music. Can't find the album I picked for the 1960s here. I didn't need to because I went to the 2020s to the 1970s. There you go, I'm a decade out. Which artist, prompt number 9, which artist would you like to spend a day with? Well, that artist has already been mentioned twice already in here for me, and that's Leo Sayer. Lynn and I have met the guy. He's a very down-to-earth guy. he's the sort of guy you could just go, hey, let's just go to a cafe, we'll have a coffee, we'll go for a stroll by the lake, feed the ducks, and take a walk up in the hills, and he'd be amicable with that sort of thing. He's a very level-headed, down-to-earth guy, just like everyone else. So Leo Sayer would be my pick. He makes you feel comfortable as well when you're with him. Prompt number 10. What would be your must-ask question to that artist? I guess mine would be, why do you think you're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? The guy had a huge decade of hits worldwide. He released, he received Grammy Awards, platinum selling albums. He wrote songs for so many other artists, and yet he's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I just find that interesting. Much like Neil Sedaka, interesting why they're not in there. Prompt number 11. As you guys can tell, I'm a big fan of Leo Sayer, and I'll try to push him whenever I can. Prompt number 11. Show a record that has a track that brings a tear to your eye. Well, the original version of this song, Love Me Tender by Elvis Presley, was released on... It was a single, and it was also an EP with the 4 tracks from the movie. But it's on this album here, Elvis Golden Greats. It doesn't bring a tear to my eye when I listen to it on the radio, but when I watch the movie Love Me Tender, that was his debut movie. I think Deborah Paget was in it with him. It's a western cowboy type thing, and filmed in black and white. And at the end of the movie, Elvis gets shot, his character gets shot, he dies, and the camera draws away from his gravesite with his family crying over it, and then there's this ghostly image on the screen of Elvis playing guitar and singing Love Me Tender, and that just brings a tear. I cry, I sob every time I watch it. Yeah, it's just so sad. I was such a big fan of Elvis, it just brings it all back when he actually died. So Love Me Tender by Elvis for me. So it was show 3 albums by artists. Prompt 12. Show 3 albums by artists that you've tried to love but don't. I do not own 3 albums by artists I do not like or love. But Lynn does. She likes these artists, but I don't. And I've listened to their albums, and I just can't for the life of me get into them. First one, Lynn was a big fan of Foreigner. I think I could name, they had a huge string of hits there when you look at it all. I could actually name every song that I like by Foreigner on one hand. It's just, I just don't get them. I don't understand the band. I don't like them. Cold as Ice is brilliant. Hot Blooded is really good. Urgent's a really good song. I Want to Know What Love Is, and Waiting for a Girl Like You. The rest of the songs on this compilation I don't give a flying fuck for, basically. I've heard a couple of their studio albums Lynn's got as well, just to see if my mind changes, and it doesn't. So Foreigner 1. Another one, Richard McCook would be so disappointed with me on this one, but he knows I don't like these guys. Simon and Garfunkel. Lynn has all of their studio albums. She has 2 or 3 of Art Garfunkel's albums. I have a couple on CD. And a load of Paul Simon's, right up to and including Graceland with Lynn. I don't get the fascination with Simon and Garfunkel. I'm a huge fan of the folky era and the folk scene from that period in the late 1960s, but I just don't like them. I don't know what it is. I do think Bridge Over Troubled Water is one of the greatest songs ever written. I think Art Garfunkel's vocals on it are absolutely incredible. They're ethereal, angelic. In fact, the final part of that song could actually bring a tear to my eye as well, so that could have been answered in another question, but Paul Simon just irks me. The only thing of his I like is the Rhythm of the Saints album, so go figure. I'm not a fan of either of them as solo artists, and I just can't get into Simon and Garfunkel. The third one I'm going to show is Lynn is a big fan. She's got probably a dozen of their albums up there, half a dozen compact compilations, and a couple of live albums. I have a couple of compilations, or one compilation, and I also have Pet Sounds, and we're talking about the Beach Boys. I cannot get into the Beach Boys. I've listened to all of Lynn's albums. I just don't like the Beach Boys. I think they have fabulous harmonies, just like Simon and Garfunkel do, but I just don't like what they do. I think Pet Sounds is one of the most overrated albums I've ever heard in my life. God Only Knows is an absolute masterpiece of a song. I'll give them that. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I love all the studio effects on Good Vibrations. And I'm a fan of Kokomo. I think that's a cool little single. But overall, the Beach Boys just don't do it for me. I've heard a couple of Brian Wilson solo things as well. Just don't do it. So yeah, I just can't get into the Beach Boys. Never have. But you never know. I may do it at some point. Prompt 13. Show an artist you love, but whose character disappoints you. I have to go Paul Weller. I like the Jam from about... I hadn't heard of the Jam till about 1979 here in Australia. Liked the Jam. I thought they were good at the time, but I've learnt to love them. Style Council, loved most of what they did. Paul Weller's solo career, loved most of it. I think the big thing that disappointed me with Paul Weller was in 2010. He was touring Australia, and he announced on the radio, or it was announced on the radio one afternoon, that he's known for not liking hotel rooms, right? He doesn't like travelling, hotels, all the rest of it. And a thing come on the radio at work saying Paul Weller was going to hold this gig at Metropolis nightclub in Fremantle on this particular night, which was the night before his real show. Tickets were like $100, blah blah blah. He'd said he was going to be playing a lot of deep cuts as opposed to what he would normally play in his set list. So I packed up my tools, a bit of carpenter on a building site, rushed home, had a shower, went there, got my ticket, got in, had a compact disc with me as well, compact disc cover, and the support band were on. And at the side of the stage, after a couple of songs by this support band, Paul Weller was standing at the side of the stage, and there was a fence, probably about waist height, that sort of separated us. And I'm looking around, and no one was approaching him. I thought, well, I can't be the only one that's seen Paul Weller. Anyway, I went and bought him a beer. Unbeknown to me, he wasn't drinking at that time, but I bought him a beer, went up to the side of the stage, and I went, excuse me, Paul. Nothing. So then I said it a bit louder. Excuse me, Mr. Weller. And he sort of looked and went like that and looked away. I said, I got closer right to the barrier then, and I'm like, hey, excuse me, Paul, I don't know if you heard me or not with all the noise, but I bought you a beer, and could you sign this for me, please? And he turned around and he waved me away and went, fuck off, cunt. They were his exact words to me. I was absolutely gutted that one of my musical idols, that's all he could say. You know what I mean? All he had to say was, no, mate, I don't want a beer. I'll sign it. Or, no, I'll sign it after the show, but at the moment I'm watching the band. That would have been fine. It wouldn't have fazed me one little bit. But when the guy goes, F-U-C, basically, it absolutely gutted me. I couldn't play any of his music for about 6 years. I would still buy the new releases, but I just couldn't bring it into myself to listen to Paul Weller, whether it was Style Council, Jam, or his solo stuff, he absolutely gutted me. I'd never had an experience like that with an artist that I'd met. And yeah, but more recently anyway, he's always had this thing with the Union Jack behind him in the Jam days, and you know, he was singing about rebels and terrorists back in, you know, the 1990s, early 2000s with the song Savages, etc., and in the Style Council days. But over the last 3 years, since October the 7th, with what happened in Israel, he's just been total for Palestine, everything supporting Palestine, letting all the refugees in that have come over on boats across the English Channel. And all he's done in that time is one charity concert to raise money for the hundreds of thousands of British people living on the streets, basically the homeless. He's more concerned about, you know, all these outside political agendas as opposed to his own people, and it's there in blatant view, and I just don't understand that. So sorry about the long drawn out thing, but yeah, he's the artist whose character disappoints me, and I'm still struggling to find it in me to listen to him. I'm struggling to separate the man from the attitude, basically. So that's that one answered anyway. Number 14. If you had to sell your music, what is the one album you would hold on to as a keepsake? Well, I don't really know. But the first album that came to mind when I saw this prompt was actually this one. Magical Mystery Tour. The complete album by the Beatles. So it's the UK EP plus the bonus tracks here that were on the American album. I just think it's an absolutely fabulous album, and it was the first one that came to mind. You know, as I skipped through my record collection, I was thinking Odyssey and Oracle by the Zombies as well, Ogden's Nut Gone Flake, The Small Faces, the Pistols album, the Clash's debut, you know, all those sorts of things. But yeah, I've just come back to this one, which was the first one I thought of. So can't tell you why. I just think it's a fabulous album. So that's the one I would think. My VC highlight of 2025, that has to be in regards to me. I lost my channel earlier in the year. I had to start up again, and it's been a bit of a struggle, but I've managed to get over 100 subscribers in 4 months or whatever it is. So yeah, my highlight is coming back to the VC after losing my channel for a second time. Number 16, prompt number 16, my favourite musical biopic. So I thought, I liked the Elvis one from last year with Tom Hanks starring as Colonel Tom Parker, but it wasn't factually accurate. As a big Elvis fan, there were a lot of gaps in it, a lot of half-truths, and a lot of things that just didn't happen in the order they happened in real life, which is much the same as Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. I really enjoyed that movie as well, but there was a lot of factual inaccuracies, things that were out of place. Elton John's one, Rocket Man, another good one, but that was all over the place as well. So the one I found that was most factual and as it happened, Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash one. But then again, he did have a lot of input into this. He basically chose the actors who he wanted to portray him and June Carter, and it's very, very accurate, very, very warts and all. Everything is historically in order, I guess. It's warts and all. Yeah, it's just a fantastic movie and a fantastic biopic. So instead of reading the biography, you could pretty much read this, and this would take you up to, what, 1969, 1970, where this movie ends. So that one there. Give 3 reasons why jazz matters. Well, all music matters, you know, not just jazz. I don't know why jazz was the one that was picked for this. I know someone had a thread a while ago about jazz. Do you love it or hate it or whatever? So maybe it stemmed from there. But jazz, I think it's a. I love the opening track, Mustafa. I love the cover art. I think it's fantastic, and I think overall it's a fantastic album. So I'm saying, yeah, this jazz does matter. To be honest, I don't own enough jazz albums. I own a few bits and pieces, but not enough to actually know. I don't own enough to know enough about why it matters or why it doesn't matter. So I can't really comment on that one. You're on death row. What would be your last musical request? Well, I would hope, with all the stress that's going to go on with how you're going to die in the next hour or whatever it is, knowing you're going to die, that I could bring myself some peace by listening to some spiritual music. And Elvis Presley's the man for me. His Hand in Mine is the ultimate spiritual gospel album. So that one for me. Sell your favourite artist to a new listener and explain why everybody should give them a go. Now I've got to find some records, which I should have pulled out, but I didn't. Sorry folks, I'm just not organised for this one, so I'm going to actually go for this one. So I'm going to go for Leo Sayer. Again, everybody seems to know this album. You know, Endless Flight. It had You Make Me Feel Like Dancing, When I Need You, How Much Love, you know, all those disco-y type singles. But there is so much more to Leo Sayer than this album, which everyone, as I said, everyone seems to know. And those songs, you know, several years before that, great singer-songwriter stuff on this album. You know, he wrote several songs for Roger Daltrey, and there's duets of him singing Just a Boy with Roger Daltrey. His vocal tones are exactly the same. If you shut your eyes, you couldn't tell one apart from the other. Leo Sayer has sung a lot of bona fide rock songs, R&B, soul songs, jazz stuff. He's done it all, and yet he just doesn't get the recognition for all that stuff. If you want to hear something that is excuse me again. Yeah, Leo Sayer, go to this album, for example, from 2019. There's a song on here, Soul Mining. I mean, his voice on there is up there with Wilson Pickett. Great, strong vocals, soul vocals with a lot of feel in it. If you go to this album here, from 2024, his latest album, it's actually recorded in 1992. There's a lot of bluesy sounding stuff on here and some R&B stuff and rock stuff. You know, he's known for his ballads and everything, ballads and his disco stuff, but he's done rock, pop, R&B. There's jazzy type songs, bluesy type songs, like blues rock type songs. Leo Sayer has done it all, and I think people need to hear that. You see how versatile the guy is. So I'm going for Leo Sayer for that question. So finally, prompt number 10. You're arranging a VC meetup in 2026. Who do you want there? People you haven't met. Well, I'm in Perth, Western Australia, the most isolated capital city in the world. And so there's probably no chance of me meeting any of you guys from North America or UK or Scandinavia or any of that. Probably not even the other side of Australia, even though. But yeah, so with a bit of luck, I might meet up with John from Beat Up Records and CDs. He's actually in Perth, and we come across each other's channels a couple of months ago. So it'd be nice to catch up with him at some point, at least have a coffee somewhere and see what's going on, or go to a record fair at some point. So we'll see what happens later in 2026, but we seem to get on okay in that, so that would be a good one. I don't want to say anyone from overseas because I might, forget someone. I don't like forgetting people that mean a lot to me in the VC, and you all do. So anyway, guys, that's my take on the 2026 vinyl tag. Sorry it took so long, but there are a couple of questions, a few questions there. I had to explain things as to why, so to speak. So anyway, guys, if you've hung around till the end here and stayed awake, brilliant. If you haven't, oh well, you have to watch the video again to watch the end of it, I guess. Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging around. Stay safe, take care. All for now. Catch you around. Have a safe 2026, and bye, folks.